The first thing I want to say is that whilst we were consulted by the Chief Minister on Dr. Coram's appointment as Public Services Ombudsman, we had absolutely no notice that his role was also going to be extended to Financial Services Ombudsman. The first time we all found out is when it was relayed to us in Parliament. We weren't debating that motion, but we were advised that that is the government's intention. The main objection that we have is that we think that it has to be somebody who at least has some basic knowledge of the financial services world. And that is really mainly for two reasons. Financial services disputes are not easy to follow, particularly for somebody who is uninitiated in relation to that area. And secondly, and importantly, and this is the important distinction that needs to be made with the Public Services Ombudsman role and the Financial Services Ombudsman's role. The latter has much more power than the Public Services Ombudsman. He can issue decisions and recommendations in law which have the same status. I use that as one example, but there are various. Same status as that of a Supreme Court judgment.
Mr Bossino, Albert Isola stood up in Parliament yesterday, the Minister for Digital and Financial Services, and he said that all the experts would be made available to Mr Coram and that a panel would be set up. Why is that not sufficient?
We say it's not sufficient because, in our view, it's fine to rely on advice. We all do in various spheres of life. But the issue that we have, and this is a big distinction to make, I think, is that we have an individual who has, on the face of his CV, and we all know, well, many of us know Ron very well, this is not his area. Indeed, even as a lawyer, there are lawyers who don't practice in this area. I say that from my personal experience. It will come to a stage where there will be an over-reliance on external advice, and the danger there is that he will not come to his own decisions, and that is the issue that we have with him. So it's fine to rely on advice, but not to be over-reliant on that advice.
Now, the Chief Minister pointed out on the issue of a layperson taking on the role that the GSD themselves advocated for a layperson in the assignment of the last ombudsman. Roy Clinton said at the time that the ombudsman doesn't necessarily have to have experience in the public sector. So why doesn't that same principle apply in this circumstance?
For the reasons that I've cited, I think we're talking chalk and cheese here. One thing is the Public Services Ombudsman, and the other thing is the Financial Services Ombudsman that I've described to you requires at least a minimal understanding and feel of the area, and also because he will be exercising lots of considerable statutory power. I mean, one of the complaints that the GSLP had in opposition when we introduced the Public Services Ombudsman, I think it was 24 years ago, was that the legislation did not have sufficient teeth. The legislation which is available and the powers which are available to the Financial Services Ombudsman not only has sufficient teeth, but actually quite a lot of bite.
What about the idea of having both ombudsmen serving under the same office, if not the same person, but the principle of having, one ombudsman's office, a central ombudsman service?
This is the first time that this has been put to me. In principle, I don't have an in-principle objection to that proposition. But I think if you think about it, it actually raises and makes the point that I've been trying to make in this interview very in a focused way. That is fine so long as that individual at least has the basic ability to understand financial services issues.